Good morning, guys. Well, back at the ranch. Today I want to show you how to do an oil change on a 2000 Chevy Blazer. It actually goes for pretty much any car, truck that you have. It's just a good preventative maintenance that you can actually do yourself at home, especially for older vehicles. It's not that complicated. Newer vehicles with their God knows what kind of systems and computers and all that stuff might make it a little more cumbersome to do, but definitely doable. As you can see, we're parked over here. Make sure you park on a level surface, and then you're pretty much good to go already. You're going to need a couple of things. First of all, you're going to need the appropriate engine oil for your truck or car, the appropriate oil filter. You can actually find what you need within your user manual of the car. In this case, I need 5-weight 30 oil. Another way to find out what kind of engine oil you need is if you look on the oil filter cap. It actually says it right there, 5W30. So you might be wondering why I'm using full synthetic expensive Castrol motor oil. No, I am not sponsored by them, neither is this video. In fact, none of the products you see here I'm sponsored by them. It's just what I have. It's basically put like this. This is the cheapest 5-weight 30 oil I can find over here in the shops that any normal person can go to. And I need 5 quarts of oil for this truck, so that's 5 liters basically, and it runs me about $100. So it ain't cheap, but it's still cheaper than bringing it to the mechanic to do. And as I said, it's something very simple. The oil filter is Fram. It's this one. People might disagree if it's good or not. I've been using Fram for over 10 years. I'm happy with it. My engine runs. Brake clean, just to clean off any oil contaminants you have down by the oil screw, etc. Then tool wise, for my truck I'm gonna need a 15mm wrench for the oil drain plug, a large flathead screwdriver for opening the compartment where the oil filter is, then maybe or maybe not an oil filter thingamabobber grabbing thing, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it like a little spider, because sometimes the oil filters do tend to stick and there's not a lot of room in there, as you see. Otherwise I have to take the skip plate off, which I don't feel like doing. And then of course an oil drain pan. Those are all the tools you need, so they're rather basic. As I said, put your truck or car on a level surface, apply the parking brake, pop the hood. Then first thing, the way I learned to do it, is to pull out your engine oil dipstick. That's usually the yellow one or just the one marked engine oil. And I know a lot of cars are missing a lot of dipsticks now, the new ones. Like my wife's Malibu does not have a transmission dipstick, which sucks. And then just crack the engine oil filler cap so that there's no pressure there. Now, important thing is, truck is off. Once you start draining the oil, do not turn the engine on. Common sense, but still afraid I gotta say it day to day. Now, the Chevy being high enough, you can see, let's see if it'll focus, the oil drain plug is right there. And you can see, common Chevy problem, they kind of like to dribble, but that's okay. It doesn't really burn oil or lose a lot that it's noticeable, so I don't ever have to add on my truck, so that's fine. But anyway, since I don't have to lift the truck here, I can just go ahead and working. Otherwise, check out your jack points. Securely jack the car, put jack stands under, cock the wheels, everything to make sure you're safe. But let me get you guys in position, and then we're gonna continue on. Now, you'll want to take your 15mm wrench. You can also take a ratchet, whatever works for you. Then it is kind of tight under the car, but just wiggle your way in, place it on, and give it a light tap to crack it loose. Now, I don't have the oil pan under yet, just so I have enough room. Next step, grab your oil pan. Oil pan, catch container, whatever you want to call it. Put it in place, make sure it's lined up nicely, because you don't want to spill engine oil. Even though it comes from the earth, it's not good to just put it back in. Then start to unscrew it slowly. Keep slight pressure on the screw inward so it doesn't fall out on you. And then just move it. Let the engine oil drain. Now I'm going to take the screw out, quickly wipe off the dripping oil, let this run out, and then I'll show you what's special about this drain plug. Alright guys, I got you out again. While that finishes to dribble out, I want to quickly show you the drain plug right here. Let's see if I can get you guys zoomed in nicely. Now, I don't know if you can really see it. Zoom in. You can see this is a magnetic drain plug. So there's a magnet up front here which will catch all kind of metal shavings that might be coming from your engine. You can see I have quite a lot. So that kind of tells me my engine ain't 100% anymore, because that's the way it's supposed to look like, nice and clean. But anyway, at this point in time, zoom you guys out again. Take your brake cleaner, and I like to spray down everything nice and clean, and dry it again. Just try not to get brake cleaner or too much of it on the rubber seal in here, as it might potentially dry it out. Because as you can see, the magnetic tip again is nice and clean, ready for another round. Get back to the truck. Okay guys, now once your oil draining has subsided to a dripping, you can go ahead and put in your oil plug again. It's never gonna fully empty out all the oil that's actually in the oil pan and in the engine. You basically, I think, get like 95% out, something like that. But anywho, just take your oil plug, put it back in nice and straight, start threading gentle, do not cross thread it, and first finger tighten it. Then I'm gonna quickly take my rag, wipe away the drip here, and I can move my oil drain pan. I can take my 15mm wrench again, or socket, no, wrench, correct, and tighten it. Now, you want to be gentle when you tighten it. Do not over tighten it. These drain plugs, they will break off if you put too much force on it. Then you'll have the plug inside, the head off. You have to take it to the shop, then they'll have to drill it out and tap a new hole, or change the whole oil pan if you're unlucky. So since that's good, afterwards, once we fire it up, we'll take some brake clean, spray everything down, make sure everything's nice and clean, wipe this off. This is good. Now we're going to go up front to where the oil filter is and remove that. Let me move you guys around. Now the oil filter on these trucks is located here on the front, behind this access panel. It's got a screw, twist to unlock, shake it a bit and it'll fall down, and you'll see right here the oil filter. Now, I like how this oil filter is actually positioned. You can see it's lying like this, so that when you open it, the oil will drip like this down. Unlike the ones that screw in from the top, once you start opening, all the oil will run down the filter over your hands. And I really do not like that engineering. The better ones, or even the ones that are on top, you can pull straight out and you don't get dirty at all. Now, let's see if we can manage to loosen it by hand. Usually I can't. This time it goes. Okay. Okay, I was able to loosen it, so I do not need my little spider friend here. Otherwise, if I did need it, it slips over the oil filter. I can get it over it all. Otherwise, I'll show you once I get the oil filter out. So, let's see if you guys can actually see something here. It slips like that over the oil filter, and then with the appropriate wrench, you tighten down in it. And those three little arms, they grab into the oil filter and help twist it off. The thing is, if you need more leverage, you got to take this whole panel off. Granted, it's only 4 bolts, but it's 4 extra bolts I don't want to have to mess with. So, now I'm going to move up my drainage pan here, position it under the oil filter, and then I'm going to go ahead and crack open the oil filter all the way. Make sure I'm aimed correctly again with the pan. Readjust a bit. And just turn till you can pull it off. And pull it straight over. And there's going to be oil in the filter, so be careful. Set it down, let that drain. Let it drain down from the top there. Let's see if you guys can see something. Yeah, whoop-ah. That was the zoom button. Sorry about that. And you can see that's where the oil filter sits on. It sits on, like that's the, it's like the nut or the stem where it goes on to. Of course the neighbor has to leave now. Sorry about that, guys. And we just let this drip for a few minutes, and then we'll put on the new oil filter. So, here's the new oil filter. Just took it out of the box. Now, what you should do is with clean oil, put some clean oil around on this seal. It'll help it not stick to the oil filter flangey thingy-majig, and it'll also help it seal better. Now, some people like to put some oil into the oil filter so that it's not dry when the engine starts up. You can do that. It's just a rather pain. As soon as you put in and you have to screw it in like this, it'll start leaking out again. Filling it up works very good if you have an oil filter, you know, that screws in like this. So for me, I just always oil the top and screw it on. So I already got an open bottle here. Gonna make sure my finger's clean, my glove, and kind of tip it a bit. Get some oil on my finger and just spread it around like that on the seal. That's it. Now we can go install it on the truck. Now basically the same thing applies like before. It's always going to keep dripping a bit. So keep your oil drain pan, bucket, whatever it is, underneath this opening until you screwed on the new oil filter. Make sure you don't cross the threads. It should spin on freely. Give it a spin like that and it'll spin on. They say once it's tight to give it what? A quarter turn, 1.5 turns, something like that. I just turn it a bit more until it kind of stops, and a little more. Then take my rag, wipe off the oil down here. Important, because afterwards when we turn the engine on, after we filled in new engine oil of course, I leave this open and I want to see if there's any kind of leakage. So now let's go on top to the engine and let's see what we got to do there. Okay, now back on top. I'm going to remove the oil filter cap. Now there's one tool I forgot to mention before, because I forgot to take it up. I'm going to use a funnel here to place it in here to get the oil in and not to spill. It all depends where your oil filler is. If it's like up front and you can access it and you're good with pouring, you don't necessarily need a funnel. Just make sure not to spill engine oil over the whole engine, because it's going to be a pain to clean, and if you don't clean it, it's going to smoke like crazy. So let's get the engine oil. Okay, now from this one, I know I'm going to need this full one, this whole one here. I'm just going to go ahead and dump it in. Now this one here was 4 liters or 4 quarts. So I'm going to need 1 more quart. Now this is the one left over from the last oil change. There's still a half a quart in this one, half a liter. I'm going to pour this one in. And then I'm going to take some other 1 quart, 1 liter bottle. I'm going to take another half bottle. And you got a level measuring. You got a measuring here on the side that shows you how much is actually in the bottle. So with that being in there, I'm gonna remove the funnel. I got this rag here so I don't drip all over. I'll just put the cap over. I'm not gonna screw it on just to make sure that nothing gets sucked in. Put the funnel to the side. Take my rag here, pull out the dipstick, clean it off, and put it in, put it out, and make sure I'm at the appropriate line. Hard to see. And first, this is just my first preliminary test to make sure there's actually any engine oil in there. But first, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the truck, let it run for a couple seconds to make sure the oil can circulate, and then I'm going to test again. So let's go on the inside of the truck. Let's start it up. Everything's good. Same time, note your mileage that you have. So if you got service records you keep yourself, you can write it down. We're letting the engine run a couple seconds. I like to rev it up just a little bit. Shut it off again. Now we go back, recheck the oil level. Put you guys down. There's my rag. Here's my rag. Pull out the dipstick. Clean it off. You always want to clean it off, then put it back in to get an accurate reading. Let's see. And now you can see the operating range goes up to here. And you can see we're perfectly actually within the range. If you look on the back side, it's the same. See, there's the line for the range, front, back. Now the oil level will vary once you start driving. So what I would suggest to do is afterwards take the truck out, drive a couple miles with it, and after you've done that, come back, park the car, pop the hood, and check your oil level again. Make sure you're still good within the operating range. If need be, add some more oil. If not, you're good. What you don't want to do, you don't want to overfill the engine with oil. Overfilling with oil is as bad as not having enough oil. I'm not a mechanic, but that's what I learned from the internet and stuff like that, and the mechanic courses I took in school. Just putting the oil cap back on nice and tight. Now the next thing we want to do is just quickly look if we had any leakage. That looks good. Let's see if you guys can see. Gotta flip the screen around. That's good there. And now let's quickly go look at the oil drain screw. Gotta close the truck door. Look here. I don't think you guys can really see. Let me zoom. Oh, it's dark. Oh, it's so dark. There we go. Okay, no drops. That's good. So, last thing I'm gonna do is spray down some brake clean, wipe everything up. Then, that's it. That's the oil change on a 2000 Chevy Blazer, and pretty much the oil change on any car, truck, I guess pre-2010 or whatever. It goes, it's very simple, very easy. Save yourself some bucks. Takes you what, maybe about 20 minutes to do everything all in all. Note it down. I do the oil change every 3,000 miles or every, what is that, about 5,000 kilometers. Just because it is an older truck, and that's how I used to do it back then. Just check your owner's manual to how often you should do it. Otherwise, as I said, for older cars and trucks, I say stick with the 3,000 rule. I've had good experiences with that. And we do have emissions testing here in Switzerland. And since I've been doing it, since I had the truck in the beginning, I've been doing the regular oil changes like that. My emissions has improved. It gets better every year, actually. So it does help. With that said, remember guys, work hard, dream big. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Also leave a comment. Check out any other of our videos on the channel. And subscribe to us on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, and all other social media that we have. And I'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot.